Hi, so I'll just give everyone about 20 seconds to join, and then we will go ahead and get started. All right, so thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. My name is Chelsea Hackett, and I'm the Admissions Outreach Coordinator in the JD Admissions Office. And I'm joined here today by Wayne Stacy, who's the Executive Director of Berkeley Center for Law and Technology, or BCLT as we call it for short, and Allison Schmidt, who's the Director of the Life Sciences Program within BCLT. So in terms of ground rules for today's session, Wayne will be sharing his screen and presenting for most of it, and then there will be an opportunity for questions and answers. I'll also keep the Q&A feature on, so if you have any questions that you want to ask either of these panelists during the session, you can go ahead and chat that into the Q&A feature rather than the chat. I'm also recording the session, so if you miss anything, this will live up on our website after the fact. But with that, I will go ahead and stop talking and turn things over to Wayne and Allison.
So welcome everyone. The goal here today is to share information. So please feel free to ask questions. We'll sort through them and try to get them all answered for you between Allie and me. Hopefully we can answer them all. And if there are any that we can't answer, I'll be happy to tell you that Chelsea will be your source of information for those. So a little bit about the background on the two of us. You had this role at BCLT, but before that, we had lives in the legal profession. I spent most of my adult life as a patent trial lawyer with a stint in the upper parts of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And I'll let Allie give you a little bit about her background.
Sure. So I'm actually a Berkeley Law graduate many years ago. So this for me is coming back to BCLT. After law school, I clerked twice at a district court and an appellate court on the East Coast. And then I worked at two major law firms out in Washington, D.C. before I came back home.
So to give you a little bit of a feel for BCLT, I'll start with why at least I showed up here. And that was when I saw what BCLT was really doing, I wanted to be part of it. It was actually something well beyond what people often in a snarky way talk about the academic world. It was blending 18, 19 different professors and all their expertise together to actually match the business world and the tech world that's all around California. I mean, it's got a heavy Silicon Valley focus, but of course, throughout California, you've got so many tech companies that are driven by Berkeley lawyers that this was just a great way to be involved. And what we learned very quickly is that the law isn't just patents or just isn't trademark or privacy. If you're working with these tech companies, you're working with all pieces of the law. And you may not be the specialist in an area, but often you'll be the person responsible for recognizing a problem and raising it up the chain. So the great thing that we saw in BCLT is all of this different pieces together to train lawyers to be really whole contributors to the modern tech world, whether that is biotech, Allie's specialty, my specialty, high tech, whether it's privacy or whether it's ethics in product development. All of it is really here in one place. And that's something that makes Berkeley different from every other law school out there when it focuses on tech. A lot of other institutions focus on one piece at a time. We try to focus on all of it together to make well-rounded and contributing lawyers overall. So what I wanted to do is share with you a few select pages out of our annual brochure. Chelsea will share the link for you for the whole book at the end of the meeting. But I just want to show you a few things, and maybe this will, I guess, maybe cause you to ask a few questions if you have any clarifications you want. But I'll show you what this really means. So let me switch over here. Okay. You should be able to see my screen now. Allie, can you confirm? Did you see it?
I do.
Okay. So what I want to start with is overall kind of who we are. So, one thing I'm incredibly proud of, inherited a program that was 18 years in a row ranked as the #1 IP program in the world. That means there's a lot of pressure to make sure that there's a 19 and a 20 for Allie and me. But a couple of other things you see here, with faculty directors, the scholarship of our individual faculty is tremendous. 3 of the 5 most cited IP scholars in the world come from Berkeley. Those are the same professors that will be teaching your courses. A piece that I really like is the one right under it. There are over 40 practitioner instructors teaching these advanced courses. And so what does that mean, a practitioner instructor? These are courses that are highly specialized, being taught by lawyers out of leading law firms that are seeing issues as they pop up. So every year, this material is as new as possible. And you have these real specializations. So you get the fundamental pieces from the existing faculty, and then you get the opportunity to pick among these 40 plus real specialty type courses, or 40 plus specialty instructors. And that actually puts into about 50 courses to choose from over the next academic cycle. Out of that, you see 9 faculty authored textbooks. When you think about that, the people that you'll be learning from in the tech field are often those that are drafting the books that are used worldwide. So when you look at all that, what does that mean? That the thing that's, I think, most impressive is the 12 tech-focused student groups. So BCLT supports these student groups to really engage with the practitioner instructors, with the legal or with the professors. And these have real specialties that didn't translate into what the students want to do when they leave. And it's a big variation in the type of student groups. The great thing about it is there's a home for anyone that's tech focused or tech interested in these different student groups. The final piece that I'll put out there is that what BCLT does and what the law school does doesn't stop with students. One of the big things we do is try to take the scholarship, the research, the work, and push it out into the industry. So there's a long-term impact of everything that happens here. So in the blue on the bottom left-hand side, you see the 9 major conferences. This is us working with practitioners. On the right-hand side, you see us working with federal judges. And it's a key piece. We work around the entire country on training federal judges about IP issues and the types of things that they will see. So one of the questions popped up that I want to take now because it was actually the next thing I wanted to discuss. So you hear me saying tech. You heard that I'm high tech, Allie is biotech, but I had spent my life most of my adult life with litigation teams doing very, very sophisticated technologies and patent litigation. Half of my teams were always tech-focused people, engineering backgrounds. The other half were not tech-focused. And the only requirement to be on the team is that you at least be curious and not afraid of the technology. And I'm very adamant, and actually I'm hostile to anybody that says you have to have a STEM degree to participate in BCLT or in patent law or any of these tech areas. You don't. You just have to be curious and willing to learn. I mean, the reality is, if you look at my undergrad degree, it's almost 30 years old. Nothing that I learned in school is the least bit useful today. But I'm not scared to learn from new experts. So nearly every law firm out there will consider putting you in tech fields if you don't have a STEM background. And you see that in the privacy space, you see it in the tech transaction space, you see it in trade secret litigation. There are all sorts of places. And I think it's actually really important that tech the tech legal world not be dominated by pure engineers. It needs a much broader perspective to make sure the tech industry is making the right legal and ethical decisions going forward. So what are the pieces? You've heard me talk about the different pieces of BCLT, and I think this is the most telling way to describe what we do. So we have 6 pillars that our research, our academic work, and our conferences are all organized around, and our professors. Now, a lot of professors tend to overlap, but you see the classic IP and antitrust. That would have been what every school would have started with 25 years ago. And it's what a lot of places still have. That's where they started and ended. Berkeley built out this privacy, cybersecurity, and content regulation. These are your classic privacy rules that you're seeing in California, in Europe, and now in China. We are the thought leaders on how to build that out. And in fact, one of Berkeley Law's professors is leading the California Privacy Agency as one of its first co-directors. It's important, and this is where I'm adamant that you don't have to be a scientist or a STEM major to participate. This technology, disruption, and social impact, it's a key piece of what we look at. What are the right ways to build things? What are the right ways to interact with users? We see these questions coming up all the time now with social media and First Amendment issues. So we're looking at more than just classic IP. How are you actually supposed to be healthy and responsible with your product development? The next piece, the data science and information technology, it's a lot of a criminal law area about computer crimes. So you start seeing lots of pieces there that really are a long ways away from IP and antitrust. Over here, you're really into white collar type crimes. Entertainment, new media, this is classic, the classic intersection between content creation, like a Netflix, and the content delivery platforms. You're trying to here understand how technology is impacting what's being delivered from classic entertainment all the way through to news and the First Amendment issues that pop up with technology regulation and screening on news, those types of things that you read in the papers all the time now. The final one, this is Ali's world. It's brand new. We added that this year to show the future and where we're headed going forward. And Ali, you want to describe what your vision is here?
Sure. So what we're really looking to create here, I mean, Berkeley Law sits in a really unique ecosystem with the startups that are working in the community. And with really the changes that are going on, we've all seen the effects of the research that has led to the COVID-19 vaccine, but that research has actually been going on for 30 years. And so what we're really looking to build here from the student perspective is a really robust set of classes and experiences for students who are interested in life science, who are interested in healthcare and health technology. Some of that I think will end up overlapping with some of the work that we've already done in data science and information technology. Pharmaceutical policy, AI and healthcare. We're really looking forward to adding additional experiences that are focused in this space, as well as supporting research that will be directed at these types of problems.
So with that background, I'll pick up a couple questions here. One, somebody did their research, and the question is, how does the Center for Law and Technology interact with the Samuelson Law, Technology, and Public Policy Clinic? Well, the easy answer to that is Samuelson is Professor Pam Samuelson. She's one of the founders and one of the long-term drivers behind BCLT. So they are closely linked in terms of research and work. The clinic is got its own academic track and operates in many ways like a law firm with protecting its information and its clients. So there are definitely separations in there, but a lot of overlap in the research and the work that's being done. But the Samuelson Clinic is really taking it into the legal cases we don't get involved with particular court cases or particular clients. So they're really the client-focused side. Other question, if students want to attend conferences, are there funding opportunities to do so? So the answer is yes. Students often get involved directly in supporting conferences, working at the conferences. I think you also see that the student groups help put on their own conferences. We support them, but the students pick the topics. We help find speakers for them if they need help. So there's this nice collaboration between the two sides. And in fact, Allie is driving one tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or Thursday? For race and health technology that was being put together by the Berkeley Technology and Law Journal. So it's more than just attends. The students are very often at the heart of putting them together and crafting the message that needs to be delivered, not only to other students, but also to practitioners out there. The last one I'll pick up here, and then I'll address some others later. Is that are students involved with the IP conferences that help train federal judges? In those instances, the students are typically helping the professors that are putting the material together. Those are typically pretty detail-oriented, in-depth, nuanced type presentations that are often driven by 25-year lawyers talking about how the rules of civil procedure and how or interact and how lawyers are really seeing the system work, where clients are wasting money, those types of things. They're wonderful conferences to listen in on, but students are often at the backside helping drive some of the research and putting together the material.
And I was one of those students when I was a law student here. So I had the opportunity to get involved with that as a research assistant. And that collaboration has actually continued forward throughout my career based on the work that I did when I was a law student. But it's a great opportunity to get involved in that.
So what I wanted to show you is just how these pillars break out and what you can expect to see in them. So for the IP and antitrust, show you the professors. Now you're going to see professors that work across a couple of these pillars. And it's because some of their research projects end up touching multiple issues. So one year they may be pure IP. The other year they may be looking at IP and social issues. So you'll see how their research plays out, which is what makes them exciting to work for. But if you look at the types of courses, typically you might see 2 or 3 of these courses being available to students. But in this, you see a tremendous number of courses. So if you wanted to be an antitrust lawyer, you can focus on in-depth antitrust. But if you wanted to be a broad-based IP lawyer, you can go through and pick all sorts of different classes. Right down to, one of my favorites here, if you look at this Chinese IP law, taught by one of the world's leading experts in Chinese IP law. Well, why does that matter? It's because those laws are evolving every month, and we're right on the front edge of helping interface between China and the US on these types of legal issues. It's a lot of interesting classes here, depending on where you think your career will end up going long term. Ask about the conferences. These are just a few of the types of conferences you would see and be able to be involved in. And out of this, you can see the variance in types of things. Google versus Oracle is a copyright case. Related to software copyrights. Design patents. If you don't know what a design patent is, if you look at the bottom of your running shoes, that's a typical design patent there, or ceiling fans, kind of ornamental designs. But all the way over to this advanced life sciences IP institute that Allie's in charge of, that really helps drive thought leadership into what is a very unique community on the West Coast around life sciences. Give you some more feel, the privacy, cybersecurity, this is a field that has really, really boomed in the last few years in California. And it's an interesting thing. As California's privacy laws go, the rest of the United States' rules will go. Because our rules out here were really first, and it's such a big market, it really set the standard for the entire United States. And we've got all of these different courses to help people understand. This is different than something classic like patent law that's mostly settled. There's not a huge amount of change. There's always change, but not a huge amount of change. Versus privacy, it's changing probably every quarter right now. So this is something that we really use the professors and practitioners to stay on top of, because this is a field that's truly international. You can't just focus on the United States and survive as a privacy lawyer. Maybe of all the topics, it is the most international of all. And you were asking before about the Samuelson Clinic. You'll see Catherine Crump is one of our co-directors, and she's the director of the Samuelson Clinic. And then Eric Stallman is the associate director of the Samuelson Clinic. So that tells you how closely engaged we are with the Samuelson Clinic. Events here also, I'm not going to walk you through all the different events, but the place I wanted to take you to, because it's not a place I think people intuitively go to when you think about tech law, but Berkeley Law has always been a leader in dealing with the social issues that the law causes or regulations cause, and it's no different on the tech side. And this is probably the most impressive list of courses you'll find anywhere in the country on how tech interfaces with society. And all the way from social justice issues, you'll see issues about regulated digital industries. Well, that really matters for broadband access and the impacts of things like COVID and homeschool had over the last year and a half. So those are the types of things our professors have been in front of well before they became popular topics, well before they showed up in the New York Times. Just an incredible list of classes to show the diversity of thought in these types of tech-focused issues. It really comes down to, at the end of the day, tech is beginning to touch everything. And if you're going to understand social impact, you need to understand how technology is linked to whatever regulation you're putting out there. Here, we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end, but one of our newest professors, he has a joint appointment at the School of Public Health, is Osagie Obasogie. So Professor Obasogie brings in a really unique and I think industry-leading thought on the ethics around innovation. So for those of you that might have an engineering background, you might recognize this. When I went through engineering school, the question was, can you build it? Not should you build it? No one asked that next question. That wasn't an engineer's question. Osagie's work is focused on that other question. Should you build it? What regulations need to be in place, if any? And it's a wonderful thought-leading place to be. And that's the kind of place where lawyers you see in Silicon Valley are really valued, because between the federal regulations and the state regulations, and then just classic ethical issues that maybe aren't even at the regulation level yet, lawyers out here are being asked to help make decisions at a level that's not just law. It's really about what should the future look like. And that's the place we want to be as an institution. And that's the place a lot of lawyers want to be, is really making a difference going forward, not just on an individual transaction, but on the direction of an entire company. So a little bit more of the same here. This focuses on more classic computer IT type technology. You start seeing the interplay between, for example, copyright law and technology. You see these fights in the music industry and how content is being licensed and moved around. I think one here that I really like is at the bottom, you see video game law. And you don't think about that necessarily being an entire course, but it's actually an entire specialty. It involves labor issues, it involves content issues, it involves programming issues, privacy issues. Everything we've talked about so far is wrapped up into video game law. And I'll give you a perfect example. There's an issue whether video game programmers are more like Hollywood movie producers, or are they more like software coders? And it seems like a meaningless distinction, but actually it really is incredibly important because it involves who's in the union, who's not in the union, what benefits are required, what job protections are there. And those are the types of things that we'll be researching out here. And those are the types of things that pop up in the class. Those are also the types of things that only really emerge because the law school is deeply ingrained with the tech community and sees how these issues are playing out in the real world. So the last one I wanted to actually flip over to is the life sciences and health technology. You've listened to me enough, and really to give Ali a chance to talk about, one, what the curriculum currently has, and two, where Berkeley will be headed in the next 2 to 5 years.
Sure, thanks, Wayne. So as you can see here, Berkeley already has a pretty robust set of seminars and courses that are directed to various features in the life science space. So, there's been a biotechnology class here for years. There have been some public health offerings. Wine law is a personal favorite. I took that class as a law student. It's actually an administrative law class, but there is wine drinking involved. But what we're really looking to do, and part of what my work here will involve as we're getting the life sciences project off the ground, is to really build this out to increase the number of offerings in a variety of different areas. I would like to see a lot more courses and a lot more focus on public health and on healthcare compliance, healthcare law in that space. I think that we have a space to move into where we're going to be able to draw from practitioners from the community as well as scholars to help with that. I would also like to see more courses offered for students who are interested in the FDA and healthcare regulatory side. I think that that's an area that isn't often focused on at law schools, but it's an incredibly fruitful area for practice. So I think that there will also be a number of collaborations with Professor Obusogi, who Wayne has already mentioned in terms of Professor Obusogi's work on bioethics. Are you going to talk about the law and technology writing workshop, or should I say something about that?
Go ahead. Absolutely, right. You can do it now.
Yep. So there's another course listed on here, law and technology writing workshop, which I think is really one of the jewels of our IP program. So this is something I participated in as a student, and it's continued on it's been going for about 20 years at this point. So it's an opportunity for 2L and 3L law students to write a published note, to actually get a paper out in the ecosphere about a topic that is preeminent in basically in your interest area. If you're interested in patent work, you can be writing in that area. I wrote mine on the interface of IP and antitrust in the biotech space. Copyright, trademark, trade secret, privacy. It's really running the gamut. And I think it's a really transformative experience for the students who are involved in it in several different ways. You get to dig really deeply into a topic. You're going to be talking to other scholars. You're going to be collaborating with your classmates to learn, what everybody else is working on, and how to give feedback and how to interact in those ways. And then you're going to learn how to take your paper through the publication process and actually see it out in print, which is a really cool thing to get to have happen as a law student, not an experience that everybody gets to have. And so I think it's a really important part of the offerings that we have here at Berkeley Law.
So I want to take from here, and I actually want to go back to this. And this is the entertainment and new media pillar. But I want to show you the type of instructor you get from the outside. Because we're Berkeley, because we've had this reputation in the tech world, outside individuals want to teach a specialty class. And we get some of the greatest minds out there. And this is a perfect example. Linda, you can see, I mean, she's one of the 100 most powerful women in Hollywood and one of Variety's top 500 most powerful people in the media business. And she's the one that would be teaching the talent contracting, basically agent contracting type class at Berkeley. She's, brings a level of expertise and on the ground experience that is very unique. And that kind of advanced level instruction is what's important to get you from law school to wherever you want to in your career goals. So there's a question here that I love. To what degree can 1Ls get involved with BCLT? I think the thought is that what somebody must be thinking here is that, well, okay, this is great, but I can only see this as a second or third year. I won't be involved early on. And the answer to that is absolutely not. So when I moved to PDF, this is a little blurrier than I would appreciate. But all of these student organizations are supported by BCLT. Allie and I meet with the leaders several times a semester to work with them about their programming, about what speakers they want. So the way you get involved with BCLT is through these student groups, and you get to pick the ones that work for you. So you've got the Berkeley Technology Law Journal. That's the #1 tech journal in the country. You get the Entertainment and Sports Law Journal. Both of those two journals come with annual conferences where you're inviting speakers in. And actually the Berkeley Technology Law Journal has 2 annual conferences where the students are inviting the speakers in, often asking the questions, moderating, doing all the introductions. They're driving the content. For all the other groups, some have conferences, others invite speakers in. We have BCLT supports a Tuesday, Thursday lunch series. The Tuesday series is really something that Allie and I put on, pick speakers and drive content into that. The Thursday portion of the lunch series goes to these student groups, and they can put up speakers they want, topics they want. So you kind of had this constant chance to not only interact with BCLT, but to interact with professors and with law firms and companies that you want to bring in and you want to hear from. And the real benefit of ever planning a conference is that you can bring in the speakers you want to hear, kind of customize learning for yourself. And that's what these types of student groups offer you. They also offer a lot of chance for leadership development, opportunities to work with other students, other schools, like the Priv Lab, Privacy Law at Berkeley, to work with other schools within the university. And that brings me to the final question I have posted here. Are there any cross-disciplinary collaborations or opportunities? The way Berkeley works is you have the opportunity to take classes in other schools. And so you can go to the engineering school, you can go to Haas School of Business, and those schools have the right to come and take certain classes within the law school. So there is this back and forth. And I think one of the early things I did when I joined BCLT was work with the Haas School of Business and the engineering school to cross-list several classes. So there are definitely opportunities on that. And there's a lot of framework for new opportunities that people want to create. So this is kind of one of those things that is ready for molding, and each student group that comes in or each student can really make an impact on what happens and how things are developed a lot of flexibility in those types of things within the structures of a big university, of course. Allie, anything to add there?
I actually took multiple classes at the hospital. I was a student here. It is very flexible on the ground for you to be able to have those crossover opportunities. I think something else that people are often interested in are particular entrepreneurship opportunities. And so that's something that we've historically had and are exploring how to go forward and get JD students the opportunity to interact with startup founders in various spaces and with business students who are interested in this. And so that's another one of the projects that I'm really looking forward to getting off the ground.
So I'm going to flip to the last piece of this rather quickly because it's long and it gets obnoxious, but it does create a point. And I want to show you, this is not the law school faculty. This is the BCLT tech-focused faculty. And when you look at them all together, you see how many we have. It's an incredible range of topics. I mean, look, if you look at Andrea here, Professor Roth was a public defender, and she focuses on how technology is used in the criminal system and whether the rules of civil procedure are actually fair, considering how technology has really changed the nature of criminal trials, something that really wouldn't have been studied 20 years ago. And you kind of see this general, I guess, this big breadth of specifics. I mentioned Jennifer Urban before. She's the professor that now is the director or co-director of the California Privacy Commission. So as California brought its new laws online, they came to her to help really roll things out and make things go smoothly. It's a great honor for her. It's good for California, and she'll be back within a short amount of time to full-time teaching. So it's a great resource for everybody on that front. And then our lecturers. This is just the list, and you'll see this in the link you're given, so you can take a look at who comes to teach. So just on this page, if I pick Brian Israel, the Associate General Counsel for International Law at NASA, Berkeley grad. He teaches the space law class. It's a specialty class taught by NASA. You can't find anything really more specialized than that or more interesting. But when you go look through this list, you'll notice everybody here is an award-winning practitioner in their particular area or an author of some particular book that practitioners rely on for their day-to-day practice. You look at David here, he wrote the book for American Bar Association on IT contracts, the Tech Contracts Handbook. Those are the kinds of people that kind of add that final level to your education to take it from the fundamentals to what you'd be doing day to day. Then this is the part that's obnoxious. I had to put this list together. It's actually incredible. This is just the 2 years of scholarship from the BCLT faculty, all tech related, all different, all incredibly important, heavily cited and relied upon. But you can just see this list of publications goes on and on. That just shows you the type of impact that these professors have, but the same professors are the ones drafting the case books that you will be learning from. So it's a great mix of fundamentals, of theory, and of really practical information. So that's who we are and what's here. I have to tell you, I did not go to Berkeley Law. So I come to this now as a giant supporter based on what I learned as I joined BCLT. There's a reason I left the federal government. It was to be part of this organization. So the enthusiasm you're hearing in my voice is not the enthusiasm of an alumni. It's the enthusiasm of someone that's been deeply touched and impressed by the professors and the foundation that was laid long before I ever showed up. Allie, anything to add? And I'll sort through any of the questions here.
I think my enthusiasm is from the perspective of an alumni. I mean, this is really where I learned how to think about the law and how to be a lawyer and how I wanted to go forward in my career. And I think the breadth of the opportunities that BCLT provides to students, it's really remarkable and has been influential for me in many different ways in my career. And I'm honestly thrilled to get to come back here and give back.
So there's a question here about, does BCLT offer student opportunities to get more directly involved in programming and scholarship production beyond through relevant student organizations? Nearly everything is run through the student organizations, because they're so well established. You've got the journals, for example. It's a big issue behind the technology journal and the sports journal. Those are really established organizations. They take the lead on the scholarship. BCLT takes the lead on supporting them. But one thing we try to do is make sure that these types of opportunities are student driven, put together by the students for the students, and Allie and I support. Our goal is never to take over and have the work done like we would want it done. The goal is to support these student organizations to do the things they want to do. So we do really try to take a step back and make sure that we are enabling the student organizations to achieve their goals rather than taking over and doing it our way. It's hard sometimes, you want to help a little more than you should. But we try to always make sure we know that the students come first. Here's one, does BCLT offer support programs for first generation college graduates? The answer is yes. That was launched 2 years ago. We had some initial funding, and this year we worked with a lot of the major law firms in California and received meaningful grants to help make this scholarship a permanent part. We don't have enough to endow it yet, but we have enough to make meaningful scholarship offers year to year. And I guess that I should add on that particular piece, it's, the question was, does BCLT offer? It's really, it's run through the Berkeley Technology Law Journal, BCLT, backed by the sponsors, the legal community locally that wants to be supportive of that. So even in that kind of situation about supporting other students, we try to make sure that students are involved in this support process. It's not about BCLT taking over. Okay, so could you talk about how BCLT engages with Silicon Valley companies and tech issues? Are there unique opportunities law students would have as a result? So two things. When you say Silicon Valley, that invokes high tech. The first thing we're trying to do, that's what BCLT's classically been. Allie's engaging with the biotech community, which really gets irritated when you refer to them as Silicon Valley. Most of them are set up in South San Francisco, in Oakland. So we're actually engaged with both of those communities. And I have to remind myself to stop referring to everybody as Silicon Valley. It does make the San Francisco crowd pretty angry at times. So how do we engage with them? Most of the big companies are sponsors of BCLT. We work with them on content. Some of them fund research. And we're very careful about how we take money for research purposes. There's never any interference. But for example, we have major funding from Qualcomm to do research on standard essential patents and the international flow of goods. That's the kind of specific research. But in addition to that, we do a lot of programs that are designed to work with these communities or with these all the tech companies. And I think, Allie, this might be a good place to just introduce what we're doing for the Next Generation Academy.
Sure. So Wayne and I have been working on an initiative that is focused a lot more at the level that you all will be at in a few years. And we've been talking about it in terms of a next generation or a mid-level academy. And so oftentimes the folks who are in that bucket, you know, between 3 and 10 years out of law school or something in that group, these are people who are starting to really learn how to do, you know, how to proceed forward as lawyers. They're growing in their positions as, you know, in-house or at law firms. And what we're really looking to develop is programming that is directed at them. That's going to be, you know, that it's going to provide them skills that they need for their jobs. That's going to provide them up-to-date ethical information, and that's going to help them grow in their careers. And so what we're looking to develop is an actual in-person conference that's directed at the folks at this level to come in, to network, to meet their peers, and to learn from each other. And so we're looking at this for next fall is our target at this point. And what have I forgotten, Wayne?
No, and I think the reason this is so important is most conferences end up being for more senior people. And we're trying to really make sure that all the way through from student to mid-level up to senior, we're providing support and providing community for people to share ideas, network, look for their next career move, those types of things. It's the great thing about being in the Bay Area is that so much of the tech world runs through here. If you build your network, if you make your connections, all the world opens up. And I think that's a big piece of what BCLT is trying to do, all the way from first year law school through 10th year lawyer, making sure that we support that community. The great thing is all of the tech institutions around here want to be involved. And so we get speakers, we get internships, you know, all the different things that are available just because of the density of tech companies in this area. So that looks like all of the questions.
Yeah, I
Allie?
think we can give it, oh, if there's one more.
So the question is, it's an interesting, my impression from your presentation is that Berkeley actively tries to approach the law from different perspectives, which is incredibly inspiring. How much input can students have in this exploration? So I guess I view it as the course catalog is your input into that exploration. Professors are going to teach what they want to teach. We're going to bring in outside people based on what we think is in the market, what's going on in the legal world. So we try to be incredibly relevant, but try to be incredibly over-inclusive. We try to get all the different material there that matters. And then out of that course list, you'll be able to select the courses that help guide, or I guess, guide your career path by selecting those courses. And one of the things I've always encouraged people to do is, so if you say you want to be a patent litigator, don't spend your entire 3 years taking patent litigation classes. You want to spend some time taking some other classes that are seemingly unrelated or tangential to really broaden perspective, to help understand other pieces of the law, because it may be that there's something that's much more exciting for you down the line. And that's how you guide your path. And there's where your input is by picking the classes you really want to take. Some of them are core, some of them are just things that look really interesting to you that you want to know about. And it may turn out that that's the career path, or it may turn out that that's the pivot within the law firm or within the corporation that you take. I know lots of people that pivoted from doing patent litigation over to being privacy law experts. Maybe when they started, privacy law wasn't really a full job, but then it became a full job, and they became the world's leading expert on privacy, related to telecom, for this individual that I'm thinking of. But it was a career pivot, and one class made the difference back in law school. And to be fair, at that point in time, there was only one class for privacy. It was a newer concept. So a lot of these things that we're talking about are preparing for the future that no one can really predict yet, but we're hoping that there's a foundational set of courses that will help everybody pivot to the next piece of the law. Because the one thing I've learned after 25 plus years of practice is that the law is absolutely not static. And the lawyers that succeed the most are the ones that can pivot in their career from one area to the next, either to stay busy or just to stay mentally healthy and engaged and excited. So the more choices you have in courses, I think the better control you'll have over your future. So Allie, this one's for you. What is the name of the initiative to support attorneys 3 to 10 years out?
What have we decided? Are we calling it the Next Gen Academy? Is that what we've gone with?
So yes, I think that shows you how new this is to us.
Yes.
We've been debating the title. We've started looking for space. It's kind of all coming together right now, but I think it's the Next Gen Academy.
Yes. Stay tuned.
So, question, given the constant advancement of technology and the law surrounding it, how do you prepare students for a career in this field decades from now? The answer is you lay a foundation. You learn to think like a lawyer. You learn not to fear technology or change. And then as the law changes, you start going to conferences. You read. It's just a constant learning experience going forward in every piece of tech law. And that's the exciting part about it. And it's sometimes the scary part about it. Not exactly sure which way it's going, but I know it's always moving. And that's one of the things that BCLT ends up doing, is helping practicing lawyers pivot or advance their career. Maybe not even pivot, maybe just move forward to keep up with how the law is changing. Okay, I don't see any other questions.
Great. So as I mentioned, this is being recorded, so I'll get this posted on the website hopefully in the next few days, and I will follow up with any of the attendees. So thank you all for attending this afternoon. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for coming.